Hey guys, I am back. We've got another guest for you guys to dive into, to learn from, and we're going to share all of his information in the description. So make sure that you guys are subscribed. And anytime we drop new episodes, you guys will be notified as well. So thank you for sharing some time with me today, Florian.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Yeah, me too. It was exciting to what was it? The moderate the panel for the chamber, and then that's when I got to hear a little bit of your expertise in branding, and then kind of been following your I think you did like either it was a challenge or you just did it yourself to where you did 50 posts
Mhm.
consecutively. And I thought that was really clever. So I'm honored to have you on here, and then also being a geek about branding,
Mhm.
being in social media and kind of in that realm and graphic designing. It kind of ended up being something I had to learn, and obviously we've talked about this offline, but we have some mutual mentors in the space, and so I'm excited to kind of pick your brain and let the audience kind of dive into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's yeah, you've seen like I'm trying, I guess, to put myself more out there now that I'm, I guess, a business owner again. So I've had a kind of a fragmented journey, I would say, throughout my career and brand strategist career. So
Yeah.
I studied in France, where I'm from, but really, when I was in business school, what I've noticed is that I care much more about how things look than the content of everything we provided. So that's when I started, being attracted to design. And I happened to live in Asia for 7 years after that, and I studied an agency in Taiwan with the
Mhm.
goal of reconnecting, design. And as a French designer, I work with a lot of other French designers, and we're very proud and not always good. French can be arrogant. So, I work with a lot of French designers that would say, I know what looks good, just trust me, right? And businesses
Mhm.
be like, yeah, but like it's not solving our problem, right? And that's when I started really reconnecting with the business side of things that I've learned in entrepreneurship school, where there's a gap between design and business, and that's brand strategy. And that's really what I started doing, and trying to learn from all the mentors that I could find online. And I've done that for a lot of brands over the years. I've been in-house and, I guess, freelance. And
Mhm.
now, this year, 2025, I'm relaunching myself as a brand therapist, because a lot of the things that I've learned through brand strategy is that a lot of it is just psychology and almost biology. It's how we think about how we make decisions and how emotions drive most of our behaviors.
That is totally, absolutely correct based on what I've been learning. So thank you for sharing that. It's very insightful. You kind of shared a lot more than I expected right off the gate. So I'm going to kind of pick that apart and unpack it. So let's start with, I'm sure everybody has recognized his accent. How long I'm guessing that you were born in France. How long were you in France? And then you said you also, I don't know if you studied in Taiwan or if you also lived there. So kind of give us, I like to ask kind of who you are first, and then we'll dive into what you've built, and then we'll kind of, pick it apart from there. So let's tell us a little bit about Florian before he's
Mhm.
become the brand owner, I should say.
Yeah, and I guess as I'm getting older, I'm learning a little bit more about myself and how I see that my career has been very fragmented, but my life also, and that's kind of how I live my life. Is very like I'm a jack of all trade, and I like
Mhm.
to try everything and go everywhere. So yes, I'm born and raised in France, and when I was 21, I had an opportunity to do an internship in Shanghai, and that kind of opened a world of opportunity for me. So I ended up staying about a year in Shanghai. Then I lived in Vietnam for 3 years. Uh,
Shanghai is what, China? Or is that? Yeah. Okay. Just sorry,
then
guys. Geography is not my gig.
no problem. So yeah, I spent 3 years in Vietnam, Hanoi. After that, I moved back to France. I worked in 2015, so yeah, 10 years ago.
Wow.
I work in the fashion industry actually for a little bit, as a good French citizen, I have to. But and then my goal was like, okay, I want to move back to Asia. And with a friend, Thomas from business school, we decided to move to Taiwan to open a branding agency. After 3 years in Taiwan, I ended up meeting someone that wanted to move back to the US. So I arrived in the US in 2018, and I've been here since. And this week on Monday, I became American.
Yes, congratulations. I'm sure that is a long process. Both my parents went through it. Actually, my mom just became a citizen probably in the past decade, so not too long ago. I mean, she's been here for quite some time, but she did have to learn some things. Some of the things that she learned, I'm like, oh, I don't even think I know that, but I'm born here.
Where are your parents from?
My mom's from El Salvador, and my dad's from the Philippines.
Oh,
So, yeah, they met, I want to say in high school, and they were both 17. So they've been here for quite some time. She actually just recently retired. So congratulations to mom, and went back
wow.
home. So yeah, grandma is officially retired and living her life in her country, which is everything to her. Do you miss France?
Yes and no. Every time I miss it all the time. It's like your kids. When you're not with them, you miss them, but when you're with them, sometimes you just want to.
Yeah.
So,
So you lived there till you were an adult.
21.
Yeah. And
So
do
I
you miss
miss
the
my
food?
friends, the family, and the food. I miss the art of enjoying life, I guess, if we
A
call
lot
it.
slower,
Yeah,
would you say?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. We tend to appreciate little things more. But
Mhm.
I'm from a fairly small town, and every time I go there and I spend like a few weeks, I'm like, okay, I need to move again. Um, so I do miss it a lot, but I also like I can't stop moving.
Yeah. What's a French delicacy? I don't think I know too much about the culture,
Oh,
but
well, all of our pastries, croissant, pain au chocolat.
oh
Uh,
man, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I should have known that. I'm a pastries girl. Like I don't really care for like cookies and ice cream, but pastries, man, you could have all types of different ways of having pastries. So,
Yeah, and they're not
yeah.
too sweet. They're like
Right.
perfectly balanced. But sometimes, when people ask me what is, like a typical French food, I always kind of explain that to me, it's not just the food itself, is everything in the context that we put around food. It's how, it's important to us to sit with good friends, to pair with good wine, to have good music, to watch people, in the street.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I see branding as well. It's not just the product in the middle, it's everything in the context, right?
Have you always been that way as far as like visually seeing things for the aesthetics of it, like even at a younger age? Like things visually bothered you if it was like for me, I don't know, there's even a movie where there's like a boss, I think it's Transformers. There's a boss that comes down and he wants everything red and there's like one yellow cup and
Mhm.
he's just like it's a complete eye fuck. So I'm just curious to know if there's anything that like bothers you when you're looking at things from an aesthetics point.
Um, I wouldn't say that, like maybe over time as I'm learning to have good taste, I guess. And I've read in a
Mhm.
book called A Curious Mind that taste is a skill, right? It's not just about, what you like and what you don't like. It's something that you can build over time, and you learn to recognize what is good quality and not good quality, whether you like it or not. So this skill I've developed over time. But what I guess drove me into design is really, I guess, just being curious, and I'm kind of a geek as well. So I always like, I was playing with paint on Windows 98 maybe a
Nice.
lot, and that kind
Yeah.
of, helped me learn about how, playing with colors and all of that, and how you can just make
Fonts.
beautiful things. So one of
Yeah.
the first job I had was a freelance web designer. So I'm more of the tech side of it. I'm not a graphic designer myself, and I understand a lot about design, but I've never been a designer myself.
Okay.
But I like holistic, consistent brand. Like I like when things make sense as a whole and not just fragmented things.
Right. Yeah. So I'm sure things stand out. I'll have to ask you. Maybe it'll be a consulting session for Chief Entertainment of your thoughts on the way I brand things. But, I think there's a lot to talk about when it comes to branding because for me, I don't have an actual tangible product. With the podcast and because you and I are both kind of relevant in the cannabis space, I also use this kind of a way to personally brand myself. So I'm sure you can talk about personal branding and kind of understanding the difference between being somebody that has a brand with a tangible product versus somebody that's like me who doesn't have a tangible product, but I have a podcast and maybe I'm seeking sponsors, like how I would brand myself. So we'll dive into that. But before we do that, there's one more thing that I normally ask my guests. And if you've been following me for a while, it's usually, you would know, it's about fitness and wellness. For me personally, I, follow a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or who have launched a lot of like really good businesses and are now coaching people. And one of the things that I think are pretty common across the board is they have some sort of fitness or wellness routine that they're very committed to. And all of them will say it's what kind of drives them to having a healthier and clearer, even a present mind, even help them to be more creative once they, got in a workout in, or if they went on a hike. Does anything like that come into play for you?
Pretty recently, I guess this year, I've always been in and out of the gym and trying to, stay healthy.
Yeah.
And I found, I guess, a formula that works for me this year. And I'm 36, almost 37. So, it took a little bit of time. But what works for me is, well, first is I hate the gym and stop pretending and I like it. It's okay. Like,
I did not expect that.
no, but, to me,
Facts.
it's
Yeah.
like, it's a chore, but I have to do it. It's like cleaning, it's like laundry. It's something I have to. And I found a way that I try to make it as short as possible. I go in for 15, 20 minutes, but I go very intense and then I
Okay.
just leave. And it's been working very well for me. I've been losing weight, getting muscle. So I found the formula that works. I do it 2 or 3 times a week.
Mhm.
And, I'm lucky, I guess it's been efficient for me. I know people sometimes need more time or they
Yeah.
need another kind of balance, but that's the way I've done it.
20 minutes or more. I mean, that's I've done a lot of fitness and usually they always say 20 minutes or more, you at least have your heart rate at a certain level. So I always say if you can get at least 20 minutes of movement, I think that's good. Is there anything like particular that you like? Because you're fairly tall. Is there any particular types of workouts that you do like that you're able to get in and out at the gym?
I've like trying to, the pull-ups. I like
Okay.
that because it's like a good benchmark on how
Yeah.
you feel either that day or how you're progressing. So, when you get to 10 and then a little bit more every time, like it's nice to feel like you're making progress that way.
That's a good answer because a lot of people cannot do a single pull-up to my understanding. Like like the army or military, there's a number that you're supposed to be able to do. And nowadays men can't even do up to 10 or 10. And I think women are supposed to do somewhere around 1 to 2. So that or just being able to hold on and like underestimating like our grip too. So just working on pull-ups alone is a great thing. I'm actually challenging myself this year. I want to start. For some reason I've never really been able to do a full-on pull-up by myself. I could do like assisted pull-ups, but I'm like, I've really got to work on that because it's a different like level of strength than weightlifting. So I think that's exciting.
When you have a month left.
I'll have to trail your case and let you know how I'm doing as well. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I'm a geek about fitness, so I always have to ask people because I think it plays a good role in you making sure that you get yourself taken care of on the mental side. So let's dive into kind of the branding that you're creating with your own self here with brand therapists. But before we do that, let's kind of talk about some applications that got you to where you are. So let's talk about maybe some classes you've taken, or even conferences that you've been to, or mentors that you want to shout out, or if anybody wants to learn from you, books that you learned from. So let's start with kind of how it all began for you as far as
Mhm.
you diving into branding.
Yeah, I think a big turning point was really the agency that I started in Taiwan, where that was really the point where I really wanted to reconnect design and business, as I was saying earlier. And that's when I'm like, okay, I kind of understand I understand the design side pretty well. Now I need to really connect with business owner, and I want to get bigger and bigger clients. So, after 3 years in Taiwan, some of the biggest client I work with was the World Trade Center of Taipei, where I would do all their, well, not all, 8 of their exhibitions for international crowds. So when I wanted to learn really about the business side of design, I was looking online, what kind of resources I just need to learn. I started learning more about user experience and how, you can kind of create a process around learning how people make decisions on a website or with the design, and started learning about Chris Do, that I know we both know, and started following him for years. And at some point, he had a podcast with someone called Fabian Gahalter,
Mhm.
who called himself a brand strategist. And that was like almost 10 years ago. And to me, like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know brand strategist was a position. I didn't know you could just come in and be like only focused on the strategy.
Mhm.
I'm not a designer, and that's the part I love the most. I was like, wow, so you can actually prescribe strategy and not have to deal with all the design creatives, which I still love doing, but this is a very different job than creating the strategy and the direction of a company than just putting a logo and colors on things, right? So,
Mhm.
Fabian to me was a real inspiration, because I'm like, okay, I can just do the strategy. That I love this. So he already had 1 or 2 books at the time, and it happened to be like, I think, a year before I moved to Taiwan, to the US. So when I arrived here, I realized, whoa, Chris Do is actually in LA, and Fabian is also in Long Beach. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to get in touch with those guys. So I happened to go to Santa Monica to meet with Chris Do at an event, and Fabian, but Chris Do is way more on the design side, and I'm more of a
Right.
business entrepreneur. So
Mhm.
Fabian, and he's also a European, living in the
Oh,
US.
okay.
And
Yeah.
so, and actually, a lot of people would mix us up sometimes.
Oh,
So he started calling me,
Florian Fabian. Yeah.
and now I'm friend with him, and I'm actually having drink with him next week. So
Oh,
it's a
look
lot
at
with
you.
Fabian. He's been a huge inspiration, and actually, well, let me just grab it real quick.
Yeah.
Oh no, I don't have it here. But his latest book is called Brain Therapy. So the name that I have as a brand
Inspired.
therapist is not stolen, but heavily inspired by his book, and really understanding that branding can be like therapy. And my goal now is to try to bring it to a more personal level, because I've done it on more like a B2B side, right? Even
Okay.
though, and actually, I'm going to quote Fabian again, whether it's B2B or B2C, it's still P2P, people to people.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to
Mhm.
connect people. It's not just robots that you're sending your pitch or your marketing to. It's people who need to feel some kind of connection. First impression are super important. So kind of lost the train of thought here, but yeah,
So you
sorry.
met Fabian, you came out to Santa Monica, met Fabian and Chris.
Yeah.
So from there, it's just kind of taken off. I'm guessing, yeah, well, obviously, you've already had a love for it, and I think with me also being a fan of Christo's, he came, like you said, he came from design. I know he worked on different movie sets, things like that, and I think I first came across some of his talks when he was diving deep about even like understanding like different fonts. So he was kind of my inspiration and understanding graphic design. And so when I come across people who we have similar mentors and we've kind of learned same styles from, I think it's really exciting. Especially for us, I met you in the cannabis space. I come from the corporate side of banking, but I also love our cannabis community, and that's kind of how we met. So
Mhm.
me personally, knowing that you have studied Christo and kind of have been in that same room with him, I know there's a lot of different things that you see in the cannabis space. Is there any type, before we dive into this, I probably should let you kind of explain what branding is and kind of pick your brain there. But originally, when I was like, I got to get Florian on here because I'm curious to know his thoughts about branding when it comes to the cannabis space, because I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this space. And I think a lot of them find it really difficult to figure out ways to do it because they're so turned off with it being so regulated and all the censorship. So they're just kind of like, they're either like on it trying, or they're just like, forget it. Like, we're not even going to try to go that route. So, yeah, I guess we'll just dive into it. I'm already here.
Mhm.
So what are your
Yeah.
like thoughts as far as our community so far, being that you come from, a different industry?
Mhm. It's a very tough question because I wouldn't say the biggest issue in cannabis is definitely not branding. I think I've seen very beautiful brands. I've seen brands that could use a little bit more efforts on the strategy and design. But the biggest challenge that I see is the unpredictability of, no one really knows where things are going. And it's very
Mhm.
hard for company to find a path and kind of stick to it. Everybody has kind of pivot all the time. So I see really powerful brands that manage to, even though they go in different directions a lot, they manage to find that core consistency that makes a brand what a brand is. Um, but whether it's on the product side or more on the B2B side, I guess, because I go to a lot of trade shows and
Mhm.
there's a lot of people, trying to sell to each other all the time.
Mhm.
And there's not that much differentiation, I would say. Like it's getting quite repetitive, I would say. You kind of see
Mhm.
the same things over and over again, which is weird because it's a mix of like things are changing all the time, but it's kind of the same things all the time as well. Like you see always the same people, the same companies, and it's like a cycle that kind of repeats itself, waiting for something to happen again. I don't
Mhm.
know if that makes a lot of sense, and this is how I see it. Like I see not a lot of opportunities in terms of new brands to come in. Like as we know, the industry is kind of tough right now, but
Yeah.
this is why differentiation is even more important, right? It's
Yeah.
important to find the people that you want to connect with, and try to own that segment of the market, whether it's B2B or product, and you know roll with the punches and hoping everything grows from here.
Would you suggest that, or say, or I guess it would be your opinion on, is it an industry that, like you said, has a lot of turnover and is unpredictable? So branding is not something people should invest in, or do you think there's ways that you can kind of outthink the box? Because now I think when it comes to branding, people are going to start like hopping on the AI apps and just thinking like, hey, maybe I'm just going to shoot some shit in the AI app and it's going to tell me exactly how to do my branding.
Hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the greatest idea, but it is a step, as somebody's obviously trying to brand, know the importance of it. Do you think there's any ROI for this people in the cannabis space to keep throwing dollars that way, or do you think they should hold off? Because I'm pretty sure right now, being that you're saying that's unexpected industries, because also the administration kind of trying to completely wipe out the hemp.
Hmm.
So, from your perspective, do you think brands should just like hold off, or kind of where do you think they should sit on, I should say?
I think they should double down on authenticity, which is to me the
Mm,
core of what a brand is, right?
yeah.
And when you talk about AI,
Hmm.
there's different ways to see AI in branding, right? There's either
Mhm.
like, hey, this is my product, help me sell it to as many people as possible, and then the AI is just gonna give you what it gives everyone, and then you're gonna sound like everyone. But AI, if you use it well, can also help you dive deeper and ask you questions about what you're trying to do as a brand, who you are targeting specifically. And audience, to me, targeting an audience is more about psychographics than demographics, right? It's the culture, the value,
Mm,
people that share the same taste and that would connect emotionally in an instant.
yeah.
So I think a lot of brands are kind of missing that authentic kind of feel. and everybody's trying to look and feel like a big, large firm, whether it's on, again, product or B2B, where
Yeah.
I think there is a real opportunity to just be super authentic and just find the right people to match your brand. Like, no, don't try to target everyone. And that's a problem that I see in a lot of industries. But right now, with the saturation of the market, it's more about finding and connect with the right audience than just trying to take everything at the same time.
Yep, I totally agree. And I see that more and more every day, especially because I study podcasting and YouTube channels. And they're saying kind of the same thing there is there, it's, everyone's going to start doing their podcast. Everybody's going to start interviewing people. And then everybody's going to start going to AI and having it shoot like some sort of interview script. So then everything is going to seem very scripted. And so it's going to be interesting to see people how creative they really can get. And I think this is where it's going to push the envelope. And then, like you said, and I think Chris talks about this more than ever now because he's kind of, tripled down on video content and kind of getting on there as raw as possible. He talks about sharing your story and the journey of rather than being the expert, because it's a little bit more relatable. And I think that all ties into the emotion that technically we want when it comes to branding, that the connection that you're talking about, because then you're talking to your people. Because if you're kind of speaking on content that you're living, like for me, for example, me sharing my story about being a mom and going, having a C-section and now kind of showing my recovery and showing you guys like that whole journey is a little bit more authentic than, maybe just trying to use like CapCut to make some sort of like quick edit on something that's educational. So I think if you can kind of start with, I had some like hard questions I want to get to. So it's, I want to ask those. So Chris always talks about value, empathy, and clarity when he talks about branding. And based on that, let's just first start with what I think most people should know by now is what is a brand? And we're just going to cut this fluff off is we all know it's not the logo. I think we've all graduated from that point. And if not, Florian can help you with that. So let's tell us in a quick form, and then we'll dive into it. What is a brand besides the
Okay.
fun part of a
So
logo?
there's quite a lot to unpack here, and I want to
Yeah.
touch again on what you said about
I got my coffee. Let's do it.
some of the things you mentioned about authenticity and creating like like personal content and versus like super produced content, and it comes to, I guess, what a brand is. It's all about trust, right? And someone told me recently, would you trust someone that you can connect with, that shares the progress and the journey through their own entrepreneurship, or someone that looks always or try to look so perfect all the time? Like, especially in 2025 now, like we all
And know
share.
nothing about them. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, you don't know nothing about
Mm-hmm.
that. So trust comes from the human connection, right? And to answer the second question about what a brand is, it's a connection, it's a feeling, right? So every time I give a presentation about brand identity, one of the question I start with is like, hey, take a piece of paper, draw as many logos as you can in 30 seconds, which is powerful because when you end up with Nike, Mercedes, they're very easy logos. And I tell them, right, those are amazing brands, but those are not the actual, this is not a brand. What you have on the paper, it's a logo, it's a signature that your brand connects to a company, right?
When we
The
see
swoosh
it,
of
it
Nike,
makes, yep.
if Nike didn't exist and you just saw it on a piece of paper, it wouldn't mean anything to you. It's not a
Yeah.
brand. It's
Yeah.
just a piece of drawing, right? So the brand is really the feeling and the connection that your brain associates with the brand identity. So brand identity is everything tangible. It's all the logo, the colors. I like to use the concept of brand signature. So if you take a website and you remove the logo or if you see a piece of content and you can recognize what brand it is without the logo, that's when you know you have a powerful brand identity. But the
Nice.
brand itself is something very intangible. It's something. It's the reputation, right? It's what people say when you're not in the room. And I like to use the analogy of bubble, or it's like a universe or a bubble, and basically your brand is everything that's inside, and in the middle of that bubble is the product or the service you offer. And what it means is that when people want to try that product that's in the middle of your bubble, they have to poke inside, right?
Hmm.
And you have to attract them to inside a bubble. And everything that you see from outside is all the touch points. It's the marketing, it's the social media, it's the website. And if that bubble is not attractive to the specific audience you want to attract, you may have the best product in the world, they're never going to try to poke inside the bubble. So it's really, a brand is the universe. It's all the touch points, is everything that you create. And whether you're doing it intentionally or not, you are doing branding all the time. People are going
Hmm.
to judge. We always say, people don't judge a book by its cover, but that's
We're
exactly what
human.
the cover
Yeah.
is from, right? The
Yeah.
cover is made to make you want to read the book.
Yeah.
So you get a first impression, you get an understanding of what is inside, and then it's your choice to go deeper or not. And that's what branding is. It's trying to make people attracted to the product or the service.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that was something that stood out to me because of personal branding is, what do people say about you when you're not in the room? And I think that's why I'm also really a big fan of Gary Vee, because he also talks, he's big about creating content, like push content, content, content. Because if you're creating your content and you're being organic about it and authentic, then there is no room for anybody to say anything about you because you've kind of laid it all out. So letting people in on the journey, as you had mentioned, I think is such an easy way for branding. And I think if CEOs, and let's say I owned pre-rolls, I would be totally sharing you the whole journey of me trying to launch a pre-roll company, like showing you, the fonts I'm looking at to create just everything. He talks about that, and I think that creates community. It's easy to turn on your live on Instagram or any social media platforms now,
Mhm.
and kind of build that, where I think back in the day it's a little bit different. You definitely had to go to some sort of agency. So I think that's really interesting how, you said that we're always branding, because I totally can, resonate with that, because
Mhm.
today, especially in a world where a lot of social media and content's constantly being created, whether you're part of a network and they're doing a webinar, or you're at an event, someone's always trying to create some sort of content. So
Mhm.
I
Well,
think,
just to say something on that, I don't. That was from a few years ago, so I think the data probably had changed a little bit. But the average American sees 34 gigs of information every day, in terms of like whether it's on social media, on your phone, signs that you read, a radio that you hear, all of that data. It's 34 gigs of information all day, every day, that you're getting spammed with. And it's
yeah.
a lot of noise. And we would go crazy if our brain had to process all of that,
Oh, I
right?
bet. I
We
bet.
cannot process. So that's why there's also, different kind of biases where, it's like when you think about something, you start seeing it everywhere around you. Like
Yeah.
if you,
Yes.
like when I buy a new car,
Yeah.
like a few months ago, then I would pay attention to cars much more. Like, oh, I like that one, or
Yeah.
So it's, you have to understand that when you do branding too, because either you're part of the noise, you
Yes.
adding to those 34 gigs that people ignore and get frustrated with, because it's crazy that we have so much information, thrown at us all day. Or you try to find a way to connect to something that people are going to care about in an authentic way. And on that point, I think, especially now with social media and how brands are much more open up with their content, it's
Yeah.
it's so hard to be authentic in a way. It's very easy to miss that. And a lot of companies, we've seen ads or company that try to target young people, but the music is wrong, it's off, it really feels weird, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I think like authentic branding is the most important thing, because you cannot fake that. You cannot fake that connection with the right audience. And more brands need to do that because I want to see ads and I want to see content from things I care about, not all the rest of the noise.
Yeah, I think having a mixture is always good. Like, don't be afraid to use your AI tools, but just like you said, having more authenticity and just trying to figure out how to tie it all in together. So, with that said, I know you said, the brand is more than a logo. How can, um, let's see, how can I word this? How can somebody create a design? Let's say they have an idea in their mind of, I really want this particular logo. Um, and I'm in the wellness industry, let's just say yoga. And I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to grow myself when I'm a very small, let's say like mom and pop shop type of like family owned business. Let's just say use me. I'm a mom of three, and I want to kick off a yoga studio, and I have this logo that I'm completely infatuated with, but you see it and you're like, that doesn't really go with what you're going for as far as wellness, you being a mom. Is that like, does the image that people pick sometimes not match what they're trying to implement as far as branding? I don't know if that makes sense. That was kind of
All
long-winded.
the time.
Okay. Okay.
And it's funny because throughout my journey as a brand strategist, when I started, my reaction to design was like, do not talk about colors, do not talk about shapes or anything until the brand strategy is done. I don't want to hear any of your, I'm saying in a polite way, but when I do workshop, they always come in and like, oh, I was thinking that about the logo and all of that, right? And I always said, delay the design as much as possible because you're using your own bias and your taste. And I've seen companies where it's like even a large B2C or B2B company, a SaaS company, and the CEO is like, oh, my kid designed the logo. And
Yeah. You hear
yeah, I
that a
mean,
lot.
it's nice, it's
That's
authentic,
cute.
it's family oriented, but it's
Yeah.
terrible. And and so my reaction when I first started was like, delay design as much as you can. But with the experience, I realized that some of their ideas are not that bad, and you have to find a way to balance delaying the design and kind of grasping some of the feedback and some of the ideas to try to integrate that in the strategy, because their ideas start from somewhere, right? The
Mhm.
colors and the thing that they are, the visions they have maybe doesn't look exactly perfect in their mind, but starts from somewhere. There is a feeling or something they want to create that is there that we need to capture. So it's a mix of understanding really what sparks the idea. And like when I do brand strategy, whether for a person or a company, if they already think about something, there's a reason they think about that. But do not concretize really the identity until you have the strategy, because there's a difference between art and design, right? Art
Yeah.
is an expression of yourself doing something you think is beautiful.
Yeah.
There's no goal to art. It's just you do it and people like it or not, that's okay. Design is a process with an outcome, right? When you design a logo in a professional level, you're trying to solve a problem, which is like, I want people to recognize my company. That's
Hmm.
what it's for. So there is a rational process to design with an outcome. So it's not about what you want as a founder or a personal brand. It's also what you want your audience to think, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about you, it's about them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a huge fan of first form. I think when people say branding, and I don't know if you ever checked it out. I think I told you that too. First form, I think, does an amazing job with it. It's a supplement. They're known for supplementation as far as nutrition. That's where I get my protein and all my other stuff. But he also has a podcast. He also does mentorships. He's an author of a couple different books. So, I feel like I call him Uncle Andy. He has no idea who I am. But that's how I feel. And that's, I think, what you guys are talking about when you talking about having that literal connection. He's a million miles away. He has no idea who I am because he has such a huge following. He's built such an amazing empire. But I literally feel like I know him, I should say. He shares a little bit about his wife, and she also has her own business, so I follow her. And then they have a really nice property with ducks that he talks about. I could tell you all types of things about him, and I think when people talk about that, um, I'm not just talking about his supplements. I'm literally talking about the CEO of this company, and I think people miss that mark a lot, or maybe they don't know how to intertwine it. I know there's a lot to owning a business, to starting a business. So I know that when it comes to branding, it may be something it's overwhelming. So they just miss the mark, or they just don't see the ROI in it. So they just don't invest the dollars into something like that, where I personally think it makes a world of a difference, because if you reverse engineer it and you don't spend the dollars on that, then you've just wasted maybe money on inventory and operations, when you're going to have to like rebrand yourself. And that's probably step backwards than going forward. So
Can I say something on that? Just
yeah.
because I think it's very important, especially now, and that's one of the reason I wanted to start brand therapy, is because exactly what you're saying, like that human connection. It's not just about the product anymore. It's sharing the journey in your life about what you're building, and for you that creates a connection. It's almost like you don't care about any of the other brands anymore. That's your brand. You found it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not just because of the product, but the brand around it. And especially now with AI, it's going to take over most of the skills.
Yeah.
The one thing we have left as people and human is what makes us special and different, each one of us.
The
And we're
emotion.
gonna have to, like, we're gonna start seeing a lot of entrepreneurs jumping on, and I'm doing it myself too. I'm trying to get myself out there a little bit more to share about my life and what makes me different,
Yeah.
because the only thing we're going to have left when AI is kind of making everybody sound the same is going to be our own personal brands,
Yeah.
right? You can have, you can be a successful employee, you can be a C-suite employee, but your brand is the only asset that you're going to carry all your life, your personal
Mhm.
brand. So that's, to me, that point is super important, because over the next 10 years, I think we're going to see a lot of people really understanding that, okay, I'm special in my own way and I need to communicate that.
Yeah, yeah. I think, recently I just was thinking, and I was talking to my husband, I feel like we are all our own brands now, especially with social media, especially with a lot of people kind of, their passion projects, and just kind of honing in on the entrepreneurship. I feel like there was like a surge of that, especially after COVID.
Mhm.
So, for me personally, I still do banking, but this is like my side
Mhm.
passion, everything that I do here. And I still find ways to intertwine it. You follow me on Instagram. And I think just understanding too, when it comes to branding, because of social media, understanding the platforms and how to use them when you're talking. Because the way I you follow me on both Instagram and LinkedIn. What I would post on Instagram, I normally won't post on LinkedIn, and even the verbiage that I use on LinkedIn is different. And I think a lot of people are using Chat GPT and all the quick little apps that you could just shoot a quick caption. And I think they need to consider that, especially when they have a brand, especially to protect, or at least try to grow, because the messaging behind it can confuse people.
Yeah.
So yeah, any thoughts on AI, and as far as social media and branding, how like
Yeah.
your thoughts on
I'm
that?
definitely not an expert. I'm learning myself. And of course, I believe, each platform has needs to be, you need to adapt your content a little bit. The
Yeah.
brand and the core of where you are is the same
Hmm.
everywhere, but you adapt the content, you adapt the language. Um,
Yeah.
what it's funny because myself, I would always separate business and personal life.
Hmm.
Like I had my Instagram private and it's only about my life. And then I
Yeah.
had LinkedIn, and even, in a business when I go to networking event, like I always kind of like had a big separation in my mind of both sides of things. And I'm learning that why did I do that? It doesn't make any sense because especially like I was saying, like we're gonna start needing to be more human on the professional level
Yeah.
because that's what's going to make us different. That's the only difference we're going to have versus the machines coming over is, us as humans. So I'm really trying to understand now. I'm not an expert in social media and I don't ever want to be. That's not the thing I'm passionate about. I understand the power of creating content and being visible for the people who need you.
Yeah.
This is not my expertise at all. So I'm learning it and hopefully one day I'm gonna feel confident enough that I can just delegate everything. But I understand that it's, especially as entrepreneur, now I see it as a responsibility. And someone told me that recently. It's my responsibility to be visible for the people who need my offer.
Yeah.
That's how I
Yeah.
do content
So good.
now. And
Hmm.
it's still a pain in the ass to create content for me. I don't like doing this, but I see this as a responsibility. It's like going to the gym now.
Yes. No, don't think of it that way. It's fun. I always, well, you know what? I'm going to relate it back to the gym because it's like getting your reps in. So,
Mhm.
eventually you'll get to your PR and you'll just keep upping it and upping it. But I think the more you get your feet wet, the more comfortable, and then you find your groove, especially when you're big about being authentic. I don't know any other way to be. So, people get the raw version. And it just recently I just watched again a podcast with Chris, and he was talking about like show the ugly. Like people want to see the unfiltered. Like don't get crazy with filters. And I think even he started saying like he started changing all of that to where, I think there's like an enhancer where you can kind of like soften your face. And he's like, fuck it, like get rid of all of that. Even considering like this that I have right now, like a whole studio, and then just maybe having content where I'm shooting it from the car or a messy kitchen, something that's definitely not polished. He's like,
Yeah,
just it's that's where we're at now because of AI versus thinking AI is this like, oh my God, it's going to take over. It's like, no, not necessarily. Let's just kind of hone in on the humanity part that it doesn't have. And then again, it ties in all to the emotions. So
yeah, and it's so liberating once
yeah.
you just be yourself. Like I'm not
Yes.
there yet. I still feel a lot of cringe and fear of what people are gonna think and how it looks like and what am I gonna even talk about.
You're
But
a parent,
when
that doesn't matter anymore.
it's still not easy, but I understand the benefits of it. Like it's so liberating when you feel like you don't have to be that persona that you want people to think of. You just can be
Yeah.
yourself, talk about
Yeah.
things you care about. And there's like right now I'm going through course where I'm learning different kind of messenger type, and what I've discovered is that I never really wanted to take the spotlight or the front stage. I kind of like it because I'm also a musician and I love playing on stage. But I discovered that I'm more like actually kind of like you, a host messenger, it's called, where it's more about putting the spotlight on others and like focusing on
So
a
much
topic
easier.
on versus like, oh, I have to speak about myself again. I don't know what to think. Or like I don't want to be about me, right? It's not about me.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I don't know if you caught it, but when I moderated our chamber panel, I just had no introduction for myself whatsoever. And Chris always like, you forgot to introduce yourself again, like over and over because it's not my thing. I have a natural, like it's just my thing. I don't like being in the spotlight. I'll do this all day because I want to highlight you. But
Mhm.
if you flip it around, I get in my own head and I'm still trying to learn that. So, eventually I know I'll get there, but those are things that have stood out to me. I'm like, dang it, I need to like kind of turn it on. And I think again, it's like just finding um I think like we get nervous because we care about how we present ourselves, and I think that's totally okay. At the same time, I think we also get into our own heads and we start to think too much. in the midst of it. But I feel like who had this saying? I think it's a musician, but she's like, it's totally like when someone says it's a mile long river, but the moment you put your foot in it, it's an inch deep. So you feel like, oh my God, it's so
Mhm.
working up to it. You're so nervous. The moment you like jump into it, you're like, oh dude, that was not that bad.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's fun. And I always say, like, just the more you do it, the more authentic you feel and you'll find your groove. And now I have a saying like, get comfortable looking into the green light or get comfortable and looking into the actual lens. Because,
Yeah.
like, right now, I have a camera that's above my laptop and I don't have a whole fucking team, guys. So I'm working my own a laptop thing here through StreamYard, and then I have my actual camera up top. So I have to remember to look up here and not look at myself.
Mm.
And so there's so many different things that I've learned over the past, I'm going on my third year of podcasting. So I think the more you just get out there and just get in front of it, like what you're doing now, get on
Yeah.
more podcasts and just speaking about what you do and what you love and seeing it as like, I'm not trying to be the guru or the expert, but I'm here to educate and help. I think if you come from that stance, and I think Gary Vee talks about that too, it's so much more easier to present. Like the jitters kind of go away from that stance point.
Yeah. And to go back to what you're saying about, being the host of your own podcast and not wanting to always take the spotlight. What I've learned is that when you do that, actually, like, this is your podcast, you're the star of the show. This is more like people are going to see you as the spotlight, even though for you, you're giving it to others, but that actually bring the spotlight back to you. So you're giving me ideas on maybe I should start my own podcast too.
You totally should. I think it's the time and the perfect time, like the year to do it, especially if you have a brand and you could tie in all your different brand
Mhm.
strategy tips and ideas. We can talk offline. I have all types of ideas for podcasts.
No.
I tell my husband, we just started a run club. I'm like, the run club needs a podcast. And he was like, are you going to run it? I'm like, absolutely. But, I want a guest. I want, a co-host or something to be fun. Don't get me wrong, guys, doing a podcast, though, is a lot of fucking work. So don't underestimate the work of a podcast. Thankfully I don't like to do a lot of editing, and I get amazing guests that have amazing stories and are very well spoken, better than I speak, and it makes things easier. So that part is not too bad. But once you get to like trying to produce the show to where it's like once a week, then you're having to make sure that you're cutting up hour-long podcasts and making sure that you're distributing them and then you're repurposing them. So it gets to the point where it can be a lot of work. I always say, like, as long as you love doing it and you're having fun doing it and it doesn't feel like strenuous, then just keep doing it. But the day that you're like, I don't want to record, like, I'm not in the mood to record, some people will feel obligated because of today's time. And I think that's when it drains people.
Yeah.
Like, it takes the fun out of actually creating content.
Yeah.
And like I said, like, this is my first time. You're my second guest back coming from being pregnant. The entire time I was pregnant, I just didn't feel like, I didn't feel crappy. I just didn't have like the energy to do the podcast. It's
Yeah.
like a sense of energy. And that is me being authentic with my actual audience. So
Yeah. And shoot, I lost what I was gonna say. Well, and you did say earlier, everybody's gonna do podcasts now with AI and everything, so we still have to find a way to make it authentic.
yeah. And what better now to do, like, a long format, because YouTube's the thing. And then if, right now, recently I just did a statistic. They just put out a statistic on YouTube Shorts, which is like Reels. I don't know if you're on YouTube often, but you should be if you're going to start a podcast. The YouTube Shorts is bringing over 200 billion views regularly. So, like, to get your name out there and just for people to know who you are, and trying to spend time on trying to figure out, is Instagram better, is LinkedIn better? I think YouTube right now for me is going to be I'm double downing on YouTube because they're saying it's going to be the new Netflix, because now people don't have satellite. We have all smart TVs. People aren't or they don't have cable, so they're just all streaming the apps. And YouTube, the content on there, you can learn on there. I think the number one thing people do is, like, let's say you don't know how to fix, I don't know, your faucet or something, how to is like
Mhm.
number one videos. So I think for brands, it's a great way. Gary Vee talks about doing like lives for brands because one, it gets to know the actual owner. And then at the same time, it's the new version of QVC. And he's predicting that's going to be the new thing. So I think
Mhm.
the more comfortable people get behind the camera, I think it's going to be beneficial to them down the line,
Yeah.
especially if they're trying to have some sort of brand and be recognized for it. So before we take too much time and we keep going down that hole, I keep writing it down. And I'm like, keep asterisking it. We talked a lot about design. We talked a lot about what a brand is. And then you talked a little bit about brand or brand strategy. Can you kind of break that apart? What is brand strategy? And if I was coming to you for your services, kind of speak to
Mhm.
me from that angle.
Okay. There's a lot that goes into it, but basically, I see marketing as a whole as a
Okay.
journey. Of course, you can almost see it as like a funnel,
Yes.
and you have awareness, interest, action. That's how marketing is usually seen.
Hmm.
Um, to me, in terms of internal process to getting out there, there is a process from strategy to execution. Right? You don't just show up out there without thinking too much about what you're gonna do with your website or with your content as a company, especially.
Yeah.
There is really three steps. It's which is brand strategy first. It's really understanding what makes you different and unique. And Martin Neumeyer, which is probably one of the biggest brand strategist author, who has inspired Chris Do and Fabian and a lot, would say try to find your onlyness, right?
Yeah.
So brand strategy to me is about this, and I'm gonna explain a little bit more how I do this. Once you have that strategy, which is really, there's nothing about design yet. It's just words on a paper. It's your
Hmm.
what you mean, what you are as a company. Once you have that, you can apply that to visuals and a look and feel and a brand identity, right? It's the translation of the strategy into visuals and not even just visual. You can think about the music. You can think about different almost tastes. Like it's how the brand expresses itself
Mm.
across all the touch points.
Hmm.
And once you have that identity, it's about execution, and you have to go out there. And this is where social media and I guess digital marketing, or offline, and all the executions of the brand need to apply a mix of strategy and identity together.
Hmm.
Now, with what I care the most about, it's the strategy, and the way I do it. I have a process called the focus star, which is 5 different directions you could take your differentiation. So there's 5 things. There is differentiation with audience, differentiation with personality. So that's the brand identity and how you look. That's the differentiation with the purpose. So some company, I use the example of Tom's, the shoes, for example.
Oh yeah.
They don't even call themselves a company or a brand. They call themselves a movement, right? It's when you buy a pair of shoes, they give a pair to a child in need,
Right.
and the design is not that good. The product is very undifferentiated. They don't have anything special other than that purpose. Uh, so audience, personality, the purpose, what I call the culture and DNA, it's basically how you do things. So, for example, transparency is one that could be applied for a lot of companies. Some companies like to lead with transparency. It's a little bit different than the purpose. And then the last one is the product itself. So very few companies will manage to, even though a lot of entrepreneurs and people think like my product is unique, nobody can copy that, right? But again, if we look at the bubble, the product is in the middle. You still need to attract people inside the bubble. So what I
Hmm.
do basically try to clarify those 5 different things. It
Yeah.
try to find the uniqueness in those 5. It doesn't mean we're going to apply those 5 at the same time. It's usually a combination, right? So what makes a brand unique can be a product and an audience together, right? If you have a product that you do for such a specific audience, then you become unique in the mind of the user. So it's all about perception. Um, And a concept I always come back to is blue ocean strategy. Are you familiar with that?
No.
So
Mm-mm.
the blue ocean strategy is opposition to the red ocean strategy, where I would feel like cannabis is kind of in this right now, where basically everybody is fighting over the same customers, right? So it's red
Yeah.
ocean, a lot of sharks trying to bite each other and the customers in the same time. So it's red, blood everywhere. It's not a very friendly market. So
Yeah.
everybody's fighting with each other. The concept of blue ocean is it's intangible, but in the mind and the perception of your audience, you're creating a place where you're the only one. There's no other competition, right? And it's kind of once you
Mm.
create that space, your audience feel like you're the only choice. So maybe for you, I forgot the name, but the nutrition by creating that brand that's kind of so unique that you feel like it's the only brand that you want to care about. So that's a blue
Yeah.
ocean strategy right there because they don't even compete with the other ones almost. It's like they created a unique space. So
Yeah.
to create a unique space in the mind of the user is by combining two or more of those five different traits.
Wow, look at that. That is very insightful. And obviously I can't break it down back to you, but that was I for what you're saying, I feel it totally makes all the sense because it's just understanding who you're speaking to. And I'm coming from a perspective of because I do social media management, I'll sit on marketing calls. And I feel a lot of times, let's say if I'm doing like a discovery call, I'll ask if they have like a brand deck or something that I can kind of refer to understand who they're talking to, like their whys, kind of like what you hit the 5 marks so that I can know how to create what I need to create as far as messaging. I feel like there's a disconnection, or, obviously this is not their forte, so they don't understand. Kind of like the buckets of how branding works before you even start looking on outsourcing, getting a social media manager, getting a graphic designer. Because, like you said, this all makes sense now because the design should come after in the logo once you figure out who you're talking to, how you're going to send it, like how you're going to distribute that message. Um,
And I'm a big believer of simplicity.
yeah.
And I just mentored an entrepreneur in New York who is launching his own brand, an app, and he hired a $15,000 branding agency that
Oh,
gave him a 35-page deck. And I see the benefits of that, but a brand strategy, if it's good, it's one page only.
I was going
And
to say
it's
that's,
extremely hard to get to simplicity because you have to remove everything that's not needed, and that means making hard decisions and getting to the really deep core of things, right? So
yeah.
once you attain that simplicity, everything comes easy, like the design and all the execution. You're like, okay, this is the 5 concepts I need to apply, and that's it. I don't need to look at a 30-page deck to be like, okay, what is the language, the tone of voice? Of course, like when you get at a very high level and you want everything to be exactly consistent across touch points. But the core brand strategy should really, really be simple. It's almost like one sentence.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because, at the end of the day, you have that down pat, I think even Chris talks about this, you can change your logo all day, but the core message hasn't changed. And so, maybe you start with a okay logo and then you grow 20 years down the line and then it doesn't speak to you anymore, but the messaging in your community hasn't changed. And then you can just change that. It's really not too big of a deal. But when
Mhm.
you're changing your messaging, that means you're also having to, go backwards as far as who that message pertains to, I should say.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I totally can see why this has to be kind of, um, it's important to people to actually invest in before they dive into the creative side of things, which I think it's because it's funner to do that thing. And I think Chris has mentioned that too. It's just funner to say, hey, I locked down even I see this often is, oh, I already have an Instagram account and I got a logo design, and I'm like, okay, we are already moving, and there's no core values of
Mhm.
who are we talking to, how are we going to even put this message out? And so,
And
yeah,
it's frustrating because a lot of companies will not see traction
yeah.
because they're trying and trying and trying and it doesn't work, and and they give up because they haven't really found the right tone, the right message, the right way to communicate who they are. And so you actually save a lot of money by investing in strategy early on.
Yeah, no, I completely would agree. So with that said, let's talk about brand therapist. I know you had kind of teased this a little bit on LinkedIn about it getting ready to launch. And so here we are now. You are kind of presenting it here. Tell us a little bit how, I think you touched a little bit about how you got to the name, but
Mhm.
what would we go to you for, and how are you going to help, let's say, my audience or anybody that's looking to rebrand or invest in just branding strategy in general?
Yeah, well, I've discovered, and I've done B2B branding for almost 10, 15 years. And the concepts are the same, like the idea, and actually got way simpler over time because of the experience that I got. And like I was saying, like simple makes way more sense. It's very hard to get to simplicity, but once you get there, it makes a lot of sense. And so I've applied, those concepts with a lot of founders and CEOs. And when you sit with them and you go through that brand strategy process, you actually see and understand there's psychology in two different ways. Psychology, because you have to understand how, your audience is going to react emotionally and how is going to connect with your brand. So you have to understand the psychology of branding. But what I've also found is that when you ask deep questions to founders, because their companies, their brand is their babies, there is something that motivated them to start, that motivates them to keep going. And the
Mhm.
question you ask when you do brand strategy are very therapeutic questions too. Like, they understand more about themselves, and that boosts them in their direction, and how they, the purpose, the why, and who I'm trying to help. And getting those conversations, I realized that this is what I love doing the most, is like, and also, if I didn't do entrepreneurship and brand strategy, I would probably have done a psychology school. That's something I've always been interested
Hmm.
in. I
Hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, I love learning about how the brain processes information. I can talk all day about the illusion of free will, subconscious versus conscious. All of this makes me think, it's all therapy. And I have my own mental health journey. I went through therapy myself. And I really see a mix. Brand therapy is really the intersection of business positioning, therapy, and branding.
Mhm.
And all of that is really, I've discovered over the years that what I love doing the most is just having conversation, helping people figure out the why and giving them direction. But not only that, it's applying a brand around that. Like, I want to be their hype man, like making them look good. Whether
Yeah.
it's a company or a person, like, I love seeing how confident someone or a company can be when they're really authentic.
Yeah.
This is why brand therapy started, right? It's really that intersection between, it's very professional. Like, it's not just therapy about making you feel better. Yes, it does that because you find some kind of direction with your company and your brand, but it's also just applying some concept of marketing onto that as well.
Yeah, no, that's very insightful and good perspective, because I think when you're confident about your product, whether that's yourself being, personal branding or whatever it is, and you truly believe in it, simplicity is going to be key. And then I think it makes it easier for you to present things from there. So just having the confidence of knowing your core values to begin with is kind of like the domino effect to, start spreading the word of who you are, and
Mhm.
kind of what you're serving for the world to see. So I love that. um, with everything that you're doing now, where do we find you if they're looking for your services? Do you want them to reach out to you on LinkedIn, or do you already have a website built out to where they can kind of check it out as far as what your services will be?
LinkedIn is definitely my main professional social media. I am trying to get Instagram. That used to be more personal, so all my friends are going to be very annoyed with all the business content. But sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
And I also have my website, florianp.com.
Okay, perfect. And we'll make sure that we put everything in the description, and definitely some highlights, some tips that he has shared with us regarding branding and even some of the design. And maybe we'll get him to give us his list of some books that you guys can lean on. But other than that, before we let you go, we have a rapid fire. It's a 7-round question, and it's just around everything we usually talk about on this podcast. So a little bit of your life, a little bit of entrepreneurship, and a little bit of cannabis.
Okay. And I answer as fast as I can, just very short answers.
Yeah, we try to, but if you watched my show before, they can become stories. So, we'll just take it as it goes. Okay, so I think I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. It was such an insightful episode. And again, because I geek out on Chris Do, I geek out on marketing, I geek out on social media, and branding just kind of has fell into my pocket. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us today. It's super insightful, and maybe we'll bring you back to do like a whiteboard and get you
I
comfortable
would
in
love
front of the
to.
camera.
Yeah, I can talk about branding all day.
We'll do it like a live stream, so maybe we'll get some people to like do some live questions. I think that'll be fun, because I think
Yeah.
you're really well rounded in it. And primarily I wanted you to get on here because we've talked about the cannabis space, and I personally feel like there's a lot of help that the cannabis can use from somebody that's not doing branding in just the cannabis space. Like, you have a background in actual, branding. So coming from the outside, I think it's a great perspective. So we'll eventually get that going. But for now, we're going to do our 7 grams of rapid fire with Florian. We'll start with the entrepreneurial side, and then we'll end it with all right, here we go. Number 1, morning routine or late night grind?
Oh, do I have to explain both or choose one? Sorry.
Oh yeah, it's one or the other, one worded question or one sentence. We try to keep it. Yeah. So morning routine or late night grind?
Yeah, night grind for sure.
Night grind. Okay, book or podcast?
Audiobooks.
Oh, audiobooks. Actually, I've been getting into that lately. They're pretty helpful, especially when I'm like cleaning around the house, and I don't like to consume just junk. So I'm either watching a podcast on branding or marketing, or some sort of like personal development audiobook.
Yeah. It's funny how,
Sorry.
I don't
No,
wanna-
go ahead. I
No,
know, right? This is the story of my life.
Books are becoming audio and podcasts are becoming video now. It's like
Yes. And it's funny because people ask if I'm like on Spotify or Apple, and I'm not. I've yet to move all 60. I have 150 videos, or a little bit over 150 videos. Eventually I will get there, but because like I said, it's a solo team here. It's just me and my husband. I went video first, and oddly, that's where we're at now. So I'm kind of glad I kind of reversed the engine as far as getting comfortable doing it long format or video. All right, so this is going to be fun. Coffee, cardio, or cannabis for a morning routine?
Oh, no, I have a rule: cannabis not before 4 p.m. Yeah.
Nothing before 4 p.m. Oh my gosh.
Depends on the day, but I try to stay focused during the day, and I get too relaxed if I smoke. So,
Okay.
and a lot of coffee, like 4 or 5 cups a day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I love coffee too. I feel like, yeah, never mind. I'm just coffee. We'll take coffee. Okay. Gym workout or nature walk?
I've been enjoying more hiking with the kids now that they're a bit older. So I would take them to like a creek or the forest. And it's kind of something I used to hate, hiking. So I'm learning because of the kids now. I'm enjoying it way more.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I stay healthy by just doing very quick gym runs. I live in a right here. I have the gym I can walk to, so
Oh,
that's
nice. Get
yeah.
in and get out. Yeah, nowadays when you have, life is moving, you just got to get in and get out. As long as you're getting it in, that's always important.
It's more about
Um,
consistency than just pushing myself. It's just like if I lose the habit, I'm losing it. So I have to just keep doing it, even if
that's
it's
right.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's more than 21 days, guys. It's the habits are more than 21 days. You just got to keep going.
Mhm.
One day you'll fail. Every day can be day one. That's all I say. Every day can be day one as long as you do it every day. All right. Do you believe the effort spent on social media is worth your return as far as ROI or not? Do you not
Sorry, can
believe
you
it?
repeat the question?
Do you believe the effort spent on social media platforms is worth the ROI or not?
Well, it depends if we're talking organic or ads. Ads are definitely money. Um, I would say well, like you just throw money. If you don't do it well, you're gonna waste a lot of money. Organic, definitely. Content marketing is a very long-term strategy. So start as early as possible because it's needed. It's what and it's tough in in cannabis because you can lose your Instagram, you can lose everything just all of a sudden. So it's very frustrating, but that's the one asset that you know that keeps on growing day after day if you do it properly. So yes, social media, organic content is super important.
Yeah, I have a lot to say to that. I'll keep it short. I just think that they need to get more creative and lean in on the educational side because obviously the algorithm, as long as it's not federally legal, that's always going to be the tide they're going to be against. So
Mhm.
if you can't figure out how to think outside the box as far as creating content, um, they're already losing it, in my opinion. And Gary Vee will talk about that all day because there's so many different platforms. Second fold to that is what you said originally was the the money whale of Google, or believing that Google ads or any of the ads are going to be where it's at. Recently, I guess and this may have also been Gary Vee. He's like, ads today, the Google ads and the ads that you're seeing are yesterday's yellow pages, and AI is going to completely change the game. It's already changed the game. And those are not even going to be a driver. So he's like, those people who are spending like thousands of dollars on Google ads, it's almost a waste now. And he's like, just hone in on the free marketing. So that's why he's big on social media and content creation, because you have
Mhm.
7 platforms that you literally can optimize if you can be organic and educational with your content. And of course, cannabis is a different industry, but again, I think if you can think
Mhm.
outside of the box, come from an educational perspective. For me, I always like to use like my mom side or my fitness side of things, um, but just like learning different ways to do it besides not doing it. So I think there's
And
that
always
idea.
have to be authentic because I've seen it so many times like, oh, let's use social media, let's go viral, right? That's
Yeah,
when you start with the
that
intention of
idea.
going viral just to get
Yes.
awareness or clicks or leads or whatever, that doesn't work.
Yep.
You just have to keep posting and be authentic. And it's tough because results don't come, it's very unpredictable. You don't
Yeah.
know what post is gonna go viral, and even if you try, it's never gonna act.
Yeah, exactly. If your intention is behind that viral status, or even people are really hyped on having a check mark and having a high following mark, they're predicting now the followers aren't even going to be shown anymore. That's how much we've gone to interest base algorithms versus
Mhm.
follower base or anything like that. So who we're speaking to and who it reaches, and actually like whose heartstrings we're pulling on is everything now. Because
Mhm.
sometimes now if you look at your social media, you're like, I'm not following this person. No, that's Meta giving you a chance to see this person who happens to be also a mom, and we're falling in
Mhm.
that same category. And so I think that's interesting. And if you're not studying social media, it's so hard to even grasp that, because it's a constant change on social media, and just a constant, like, the algorithm is so discouraging to people, especially in the cannabis space. So
Yeah.
I think like you said, just being organic with it, and just not throwing the dollars on ads just because it's the thing to do right now. Like, it's got to make sense. I think Gary Vee said, if it, like, let's say an ad or a reel, let's say a reel goes viral, which usually hits a lot quicker on TikTok than Instagram. But let's say it does go viral, then he said, then you would take that particular content and make that, spend the dollars on that particular one. But if you're not getting over 40,000 views, he's like, just keep doing the free shit. Like, be organic, and just show, your story that way. But again, I think we live in a society that the quick fix, the quick buttons, the quick
Mm-hmm.
clicks is pleasing to them, and that's kind of like the world we live in. So the viral thing is hit and miss, I should say. I
Yeah.
don't care for it. Sometimes I put stuff out there and two people like it. I really don't care. But the funny thing is two people like it. If you look at your analytics, you'll see that I could reach, it could be 2 likes, and then the pie chart will show 78% non-followers viewed your content versus, whatever the difference, the 30% of your followers. And the whole idea is, if you're going to be on platforms, is to grow and to reach new people. Obviously, your friends are your friends, but to create content, if you're going to take time to create content, your whole idea is to hopefully grow.
Yeah.
And the only way to grow is right now is through the vertical videos and the reels. And so if you're making content and they're only showing it to your followers, that's going to be discouraging. So I think, learning that as well, especially if you have a brand that you're trying to get in front of people.
And this is why also, I guess, personal branding is getting more important, because companies posting content, whether it's authentic or trying to look natural, it's still not really pushed by the main channels, like
Yeah.
especially LinkedIn or even Instagram. Like, well, Instagram, you're not even supposed to have a company account, right? It has to be a person. But on LinkedIn, like, I know when I used to do it for companies, like, every post that we post as a company is just a big flop, right? People care about people.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that every entrepreneur has a responsibility almost to be a content creator.
Yeah, I feel like, if you have a rapport with your audience, like you said, like I have with Andy Frisella, the owner of First Form, um, eventually I'm buying everything. Like, I have his Tumblr, I'm buying his shirts, I'm buying 2 books instead of one so I can give one to somebody at a run club. That's how much he's impacted my life. And so, I think, that speaks to the way he does his branding, and that kind of all ties into everything you've shared. So, sorry guys, a little bit of a
Oh,
tangent. No,
no, I
we're
was
fine.
going on the tangent. So
Oh no, keep going. Keep
what
going.
what scares me a little bit when you think about, we all have to be authentic, and at the same time, we are a lot of people. There's a lot of entrepreneurs, and if everybody managed, let's say we all get on the base level of everybody managed to create good content, and
Yeah.
we all have find a way to reach our audience perfectly, like, it's still going to be a lot of noise if we
Yeah.
are all good at it. So it's kind of scary, because yes, like, I think authentic content should be, what wins over all the ads and the things that we don't want to see. But if everybody manages to do it, it's still going to be kind of a mess. So it's scary too.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a mess, but I think that it also comes down to, like, how interesting are you? Like, how many different buckets can you speak on? Like, if you could only speak on one thing, like, again, it's become an interest-based world. Like, everything, you have to have an interest in somebody. So the more interesting person you are, more you can pull the different categories. And I think that's what it's come down to. Like, for me, if you follow me, I speak on cannabis, I speak on social media content, I speak about like YouTube, I speak about being a mom, I speak about fitness. There's so many different things that I could speak on, which is different ways for me to reach new followers. Ideally, that's the idea for me.
And that's what
Um,
makes you unique.
right. And for me, it's the things that I speak on is everything that I live by. So it's very easy for me to create content. I don't overthink it because I'm not showing you anything that's not real. And I think when people think of things like that, it makes it easier.
Mhm.
But you're right. I think, we already have so much noise. Everything's in our face 24/7. There's this platform and that platform, and there's just so much going on. So for me, sounds bad, but I do my thing and I don't really dial in on like the scrolling. I just don't have time for that. I have 3 kids. I really don't. So it's like really understanding to like the importance of execution. And I think you touched on that, is like the ideas are great. I have this, I want to do this, the colors are great, but it's like how, like how are we actually going to execute and get it done? So all right, so we have 2 more rapid fire question, guys. We will edit that part out if we need to. But last 2, is AI stealing jobs, or is it finally letting us take naps?
That's I was thinking about that this morning. It's weird because part of me is like, I love AI so much. Well, I've always been a geek and a very early adopter of technology in general, so I've
Yeah.
been with it since day one,
Hmm.
and I see the benefits. It's tremendous. But what scares me is that as we advanced, I'm gonna go a little bit higher, I guess. But as we advanced as human society, we managed to find ways to work less and less, like we're supposed to, right? AI should be taking, machines should be taking, so we should be working less and less. And what's the point, right? At some point, we should even not work at all, right? Let's say, imagine life in 1,000 of years, like we shouldn't have to work. We should find a way to not have to work. But with AI getting more and more important in our lives, I feel like we're, instead of taking away work from us, it's making us more productive, and we work even more. So it feels like it's not solving the main issue. I mean, it's solving a lot of
Counterintuitive.
productivity
Yeah.
issue, but I see it as a way for us to stop working as much. Like, life is not about working, and
Yeah.
it should be taking us away from the office and the computer and just enjoying life more, but it's not actually doing that. So I see a lot of benefits in productivity and how it's helping us advance as a society, but I don't see the end of it, and I think we should try to keep that in mind.
Yeah, I think definitely being conscious of how you use it, when you use it, and just, just being conscious of that, of using the tool, because, technically we are all the tools, and that, the apps are absorbing all of our data, which is ideally what they're absorbing from all of us, and energy, it's energy at the same time. So
Mhm.
yeah, no, I definitely think time wise, like it's efficient, it's really cool to have. I don't think it's going to take jobs and do all that, because like you said, there's still like emotional part of designing things and all of that part. So I think people get scared with it, but I also think people would be stupid to sleep on it. We're at the point where it's like there's no reason for you not to use it, no matter how like hippy dippy you are, like, oh, that's too techy for me. Like, okay, well,
Yeah.
that's going to be a downfall at the end of the day. So for me, it's just getting familiar with it, comfortable. You want to use it, don't use it. If you want to, like, just, I think to your extent, and using it for whatever fits you, but not like letting it drive you, or letting it be the main driver of what creates everything for you. Like for me, everything should be like, if I do anything, it's going to be an enhancement. I want it to like maybe give me different wording or refine it, but I'm not going to just say, hey, create this thing for me and just like wing it. I think, some people are going to do that. So,
Yeah, I
and I
do.
think the work will speak itself.
I'm sorry.
I said, and I think that will, like, when you see that work, when people do it that way, it will illustrate. You'll be able to know eventually down the line.
Yeah, yeah, you can tell. But I do think AI is going to take away a lot of jobs, which is scary in a way, like, the same way, we can talk about tractors at some point,
Yeah.
away, horses. And so it's just an advance of technology.
Oh
And
yeah.
what scares me is that a lot of people are not going to adapt fast enough.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what scares me the most is it's that we still have to find ways to work where we shouldn't have to. Like, it's supposed to
It's
replace
supposed to, yeah. Yeah.
in a
Yeah, I
way
get what
that
you're saying.
as I was saying, we can enjoy life. Now it's like the
Well,
human resources are being like not prioritized.
well, Florian, welcome to being an American. Don't you understand our culture? We're working bees.
That's true. Yeah. The American dream.
Yes, yes, that's what we are like programmed to be. We don't know like exactly what you said. We're supposed to be, it's supposed to help us like
Work
just
life.
make life easier, but I think our culture doesn't know how to do that. And especially if you have a very like go-getter personality, and you just want to try to get thing. I can seeing people like super addicted to it. I mean, they're already making the movies where people have relationships with their chat GPT.
Yeah.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where we go. My whole thing is like, I hope it's for the better. We both have children, and so it'll be interesting to see what, even in 20 years, things move so fast, like where things will be in 20 years,
Yeah.
which
Well,
we're
that's
still
gonna
young.
be
So
good. That. Yeah.
we'll come back. We'll do a podcast again in 20 years and we'll ask you again. um, all right, last one. If one got leaked, which one would you prefer, pics or text? And yes, yours. Someone's like, mine? Yes, yours.
What kind of pick? I guess.
Uh, all
Really,
your pictures or all your text? If one got leaked, which one would you prefer?
I think I saw you ask that question. And I think
It's
I'm gonna.
my new fun one.
And I like the answer from the last person. I think pics because text can be interpreted in a lot of different ways. So I'm gonna share
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. But yeah, no, that's it, guys. That was my 7 grams rapid fire with Florian. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. If you guys have any questions about what we discussed today, if you guys need to find Florian, I'll make sure his LinkedIn is on here and his website. So you guys will be able to find Florian and kind of see if the brand therapist is for you guys on the description. Other than that, we are all set for today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in today. And thank you, Florian, for sharing all your insight and your brand strategy with us.
Merci beaucoup. That was a real pleasure.
Ooh, thanks, guys.